100 feet of icy cold Lake Superior water, but several people have made the voyage to this dangerous location to view the most famous of Great Lakes shipwrecks.
Captain Bernie Cooper believed she was swallowed by a single monstrous wave.
I think it was sudden and catastrophic. The ship just disappeared completely. I mean, if those seas were that big, they rolled up his deck, and he's got a list, and the water stays up in the forward cabin. It's going to put his bow down under the water. And once she started down, the screw just drove her into the bottom.
A freighter carrying a crew of 29 disappeared on Lake Superior during a severe storm last night, and so far, no survivors have been found.
For nearly half a century, Lake Superior kept the ultimate secret, hiding the crew of the doomed Edmund Fitzgerald deep in its icy depths. Now, shocking new discoveries might finally reveal what really happened. Could this be the answer to one of the greatest maritime mysteries? A deadly storm no ship could survive. It was November 10th, 1975. The SS Edmund Fitzgerald, one of the most impressive vessels to ever sail the Great Lakes, was battling an unrelenting storm. But this wasn't just any storm. Reports say the waves reached up to 35 feet, crashing relentlessly against the 729-foot iron giant, and the wind gusts hit 86 miles per hour. Imagine that for a second. Enough force to knock down trees on land, let alone a ship fighting for its life out on Lake Superior's dark waters. Captain Ernest McSorley, an experienced sailor with more than 40 years at sea, was at the helm. He had led countless voyages through these waters, braving harsh conditions more times than he could count. But even he hadn't anticipated a storm like this. Some call it a November witch, a rare, vicious weather phenomenon unique to the Great Lakes in late autumn. These storms form when cold, dry air from the Arctic collides with warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico, creating explosive weather patterns that can wreak havoc on even the most well-prepared vessels. As the waves grew taller and the winds turned fierce, McSorley knew things were getting dangerous, but he was a captain who didn't show fear easily. Just hours before the Fitzgerald disappeared, he radioed another nearby ship, the SS Arthur M. Anderson, reporting damage but claiming, "We are holding our own." A calm statement, yes, but almost eerie in hindsight. That radio call was made at 7:10 in the evening, and it would be the last anyone heard from him or his crew. Now here's where things get truly haunting. The Fitzgerald was equipped with advanced radar technology for the time, but that night it had already started to fail. Some reports suggest the radar had malfunctioned entirely, leaving McSorley and his men practically blind in the storm. They were relying on sheer experience and instinct to navigate waters that had become a nightmare. The Arthur M. Anderson's crew, just 10 miles behind the Fitzgerald, watched as the ship simply vanished from their radar in seconds. There was no distress call, no flare, just a sudden, terrifying silence. Despite the chaos, McSorley hadn't sounded panicked. He was known as a man of few words, never one to complain. In fact, the Fitzgerald had faced tough storms before, and McSorley believed his ship and crew were up for the challenge. But Lake Superior had other plans. When the Fitzgerald slipped beneath the surface, it left behind a trail of questions that linger even today. How could a ship this size, built for endurance, go down without so much as a distress call? And why did it happen so quickly? After the Fitzgerald disappeared, a search and rescue mission was immediately launched, but rescuers faced a brutal reality. The storm was so fierce that the Arthur M. Anderson, the last ship to see the Fitzgerald, had to turn back multiple times before it could safely navigate through the waves. By the time they reached the coordinates where the Fitzgerald was last seen, there was nothing. No debris, no oil slick, nothing to suggest where the ship or its 29 crew members had gone. This isn't where the mystery ends. Over the years, there have been countless theories, some that even venture into the realm of the paranormal. Was it a freak wave? An alleged rogue Three Sisters phenomenon? A series of massive waves, each one building on the previous, capable of overwhelming even the toughest vessels? Others suggest the Fitzgerald may have been compromised long before it set out on its final voyage. Rumor has it the ship had structural issues that were overlooked or underestimated. problems that might have left it vulnerable to a storm of this magnitude. The ship had reported hull damage before, and it wasn't the first time it had been patched up and sent back out. Adding to the intrigue, Lake Superior's waters are notoriously icy and unforgiving. Temperatures can drop below freezing at the lake's deepest points, creating a unique environment where wrecks and bodies are preserved far better than in warmer waters. Could this explain why no bodies were ever recovered? Or is there something else, a darker secret, that Lake Superior refuses to reveal? What we do know is this: the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald was a catastrophic failure, a collision of nature's wrath and possibly human oversight. The lake claimed its crew in silence, and to this day, the depths of Lake Superior keep that night locked away, untold. Lake Superior's darkest depths hide the truth. Lake Superior is no ordinary lake. It's a silent, chilling abyss with depths that seem to go on forever. Known for its deadly beauty, this massive body of water spans over 31,000 square miles and plunges to a maximum depth of over 1,300 feet. It's the largest freshwater lake by surface area on Earth, yet it holds on to its secrets like no other. And in November's icy grasp, it transforms into a place where mysteries lurk beneath the surface, never to be revealed. The Edmund Fitzgerald is just one of many ships lost in its depths, but none haunt us quite like this. The conditions at the bottom of Lake Superior are extreme and unforgiving. Temperatures hover just above freezing, barely warming above 38 degrees Fahrenheit, even in summer. This bitter cold preserves whatever sinks to the bottom, and with little sunlight penetrating the lake's depths, decay occurs at a fraction of the rate found in warmer waters. This eerie preservation creates a haunting effect. Wrecks remain as silent monuments to the lives they took. Could this be why the Edmund Fitzgerald's 29 crew members were never recovered? Is there a grim gallery of ghosts lingering, perfectly preserved in the icy blackness, unable to ever resurface? But it's not just the cold that hides the truth. Lake Superior's incredible depth and vastness make it almost impossible to explore its lower reaches. Imagine an underwater landscape cloaked in perpetual darkness, where sediment layers lie undisturbed, accumulating over centuries. This silt forms a thick cover, settling on anything that rests on the lake bed, masking it from view. When researchers first located the Fitzgerald wreck in 1975, they found the ship resting in two massive sections, both partially buried in silt. Some say this thick sediment has hidden other remains and clues that could explain the ship's sudden sinking. In addition to the silt, the lake's strong currents further complicate any chance of recovery. These currents, reaching speeds of up to 3 knots in some areas, act like invisible hands, sweeping away objects that don't immediately sink. Even if some debris or remains had managed to surface, they would have been quickly swept far from the wreck site or drawn back into the lake's depths by the pull of these relentless currents. Divers and search teams report that these currents create a dangerous situation for anyone daring to explore these waters. And that's if the equipment even functions. The immense pressure at such depths makes it challenging for even advanced underwater vehicles to operate, let alone for human divers. When the wreck was discovered, there was hope that the Fitzgerald's secrets might finally be uncovered. But divers soon realized that retrieving anything from the wreckage would be nearly impossible. Lake Superior's dark waters seemed to whisper their warning, keeping all who enter at bay. The lake holds on to the ship's secrets, refusing to let go of the souls lost to its depths. With its currents, silt, and numbing cold, Lake Superior itself becomes the ultimate tomb for the Fitzgerald and its crew. But here's a haunting thought. What if the bodies of the crew are still down there, preserved by the lake's icy grip, lying in silence among the wreckage? Unsolved mysteries and ghostly theories. If you thought the lake's darkness and chilling cold were unsettling, wait until you hear about the theories surrounding the Edmund Fitzgerald's demise. To this day, no one knows for certain why the ship went down so suddenly, without so much as a distress call. This eerie silence has given rise to theories that range from chillingly plausible to almost supernatural. One theory revolves around a rare phenomenon known as the Three Sisters, a deadly series of rogue waves that have been rumored to appear on Lake Superior during intense storms. These aren't your average waves. The Three Sisters can reach towering heights, each one striking harder than the last, overwhelming even the sturdiest of vessels. According to some experts, the Fitzgerald may have been hit by one of these devastating triple waves that struck the ship in quick succession, leaving it no time to recover. But with no survivors, we're left to wonder, could a wave really have been the final blow, or is there more to the story? Another chilling possibility is that the Fitzgerald may have been compromised from within. There are whispers among maritime historians that the ship was already battling structural weaknesses long before it ever set sail on its fateful final voyage. Some crew members had allegedly reported issues with hull integrity, and patches had been made on the ship prior to that November night. Was it possible these repairs were insufficient, setting the Fitzgerald up for a catastrophic failure? These claims remain unconfirmed, but it's worth noting that the ship had faced rough storms before and survived. So why did it succumb so suddenly this time? Then there's the theory involving cargo liquefaction. The Fitzgerald was loaded with 26,000 tons of taconite iron ore pellets, each no larger than a marble. During rough seas, these tiny pellets can shift and compact, potentially transforming into a dense, liquid-like mass that destabilized the ship's balance. Some experts believe this liquefaction effect may have caused the Fitzgerald to lose its stability, making it highly vulnerable to capsizing under the relentless waves. But again, this is just a theory. No one knows for sure. In addition to these practical explanations, there are tales that veer into the paranormal. Some say the Fitzgerald was cursed from the start. Built in 1958 and named after a powerful insurance executive who oversaw its construction, the ship's entire existence seemed to carry a dark energy. Sailors have always been a superstitious group, and many believe the Fitzgerald's bad fortune was sealed by mysterious omens. According to lore, crew members reported feeling a sense of foreboding before even leaving port that final time, and some allegedly spoke of strange shadows or noises on board. Could it be that the ship's fate was doomed before it even hit the water? And then there's the question of the ship's final radio communication. Captain McSorley's last words, "We are holding our own," seem calm, even confident, but some experts interpret them differently. Given the severe conditions, was McSorley attempting to reassure his crew, or was he resigned to their fate? The phrase has haunted those who study the Fitzgerald's case, as it seems to carry an eerie weight. McSorley's words, echoing across the decades, give us a glimpse into those final moments, but without revealing the full truth. What's even more haunting is that the Fitzgerald story is not unique. The Great Lakes, and Lake Superior in particular, are littered with tales of ships that vanished without a trace. Local fishermen and sailors sometimes speak of ghost ships that appear on foggy nights, silent and shadowy in the distance. As each year passes, the mystery only deepens. The disaster that changed shipping forever. The sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald wasn't just a tragedy, it was a wake-up call that rocked the shipping industry to its core. In the days following the disaster, the Coast Guard, the National Transportation Safety Board, and several other agencies launched investigations, each trying to answer the same haunting question. How could a state-of-the-art vessel, operated by one of the most experienced captains on the Great Lakes, disappear without a trace in a matter of minutes? In the months that followed, a full investigation was launched, examining everything from the Fitzgerald's cargo load to its structural integrity. But the more investigators probed, the more questions they found. First on the list was the cargo. The Fitzgerald was carrying over 26,000 tons of taconite iron ore pellets, and questions arose about whether it had been loaded properly. A theory began to surface suggesting that the cargo may have shifted during the storm, possibly causing instability. This theory was troubling because, if true, it pointed to a larger issue, not just with the Fitzgerald, but with all freighters on the Great Lakes. But the investigators didn't stop at the cargo. They also examined the ship's structural design. Maritime engineers and specialists in structural integrity began to ask if the Fitzgerald's design itself might have been flawed. During the 1950s and 60s, ships were built with long decks and minimal crossbeams to maximize cargo space. But this design could make the ship more vulnerable in extreme conditions. Some experts wondered if the Fitzgerald's unique structure may have compromised its ability to withstand the brutal Three Sisters waves that Lake Superior is known to unleash. Was the Fitzgerald a ticking time bomb, a giant with a fatal flaw? The investigations also forced a re-examination of radio communication protocols and emergency preparedness. At the time, ships on the Great Lakes weren't required to have the kind of advanced communication equipment that was standard on ocean-going vessels. This meant that the Fitzgerald, despite its size and reputation, was not fully equipped to call for help in an emergency. The U.S. Coast Guard took a hard look at these regulations, and new rules were implemented. One of the first major changes was a requirement for more advanced radar and communication systems on all Great Lakes vessels. The tragedy of the Fitzgerald had revealed how outdated the safety protocols were, and maritime authorities were determined not to let history repeat itself. But technology was only part of the solution. The investigations into the Fitzgerald's sinking also uncovered a cultural issue within the shipping industry, a kind of unspoken bravado that encouraged captains and crews to push through dangerous weather, even when conditions were hazardous. After the Fitzgerald's sinking, some captains admitted that there was an unspoken pressure to deliver cargo on time, even if it meant sailing through storms. For the first time, officials openly acknowledged that the culture of making it through was costing lives. The result? New guidelines that mandated greater caution during storm season, instructing captains to heed weather warnings and make decisions based on safety, not just profit or reputation. These changes didn't happen overnight, though. In fact, it took years for the new regulations to be fully embraced, and it wasn't until other tragedies highlighted the need for better safety protocols that real, lasting reform took place. But the Fitzgerald remains a tragic reminder that even in the face of nature's fury, human error and oversight can be deadly. The lessons learned from the Fitzgerald's sinking have become a cornerstone of modern shipping practices on the Great Lakes, a lasting legacy of one of the most haunting maritime disasters in American history. Would any of these measures have saved the Edmund Fitzgerald and its crew that fateful night? Or was it simply doomed by forces beyond human control? A haunting legacy that won't fade.
4 decades after the Edmund Fitzgerald sank in a violent Lake Superior storm, the cause is still a mystery.
The sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald left a deep scar, not just on the families of the 29 crew members who perished, but on the collective memory of the Great Lakes region and the world. The mystery, the tragedy, and the untold loss have woven the story of the Fitzgerald into the fabric of maritime lore, and even today, its legacy haunts us. Each year on November 10th, people gather at Whitefish Point, where the Fitzgerald was last seen, to honor the lost crew members. It's a solemn event, a moment when the lake's chilling silence feels especially loud, a reminder of the lives taken by the waves. But it isn't only at Whitefish Point that people remember the Fitzgerald. The story has inspired countless books, articles, and documentaries, each trying to answer the same unanswerable questions and make sense of the tragedy. Perhaps the most famous tribute is Gordon Lightfoot's song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Released in 1976, just 1 year after the sinking, the song's haunting melody and evocative lyrics captured the sorrow of the event, keeping the memory of the crew alive in a way that history books never could. Lightfoot's ballad became an anthem for the Fitzgerald, a musical eulogy that continues to resonate with audiences decades later. Some even say the song feels like a ghostly reminder of the lost crew, as if their voices somehow echo through the lyrics. Over the years, numerous efforts have been made to honor the crew and the ship. In 2005, the Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society added a permanent display dedicated to the Fitzgerald at the Shipwreck Museum in Michigan. It includes artifacts, photos, and even part of the ship's bell, recovered from the wreck in 1995. The bell, inscribed with the names of the lost crew, has become a symbol of their memory, a reminder of the lives cut short by that storm. Families of the crew members gather each year to ring the bell in a somber ceremony, one ring for each life lost. It's a deeply emotional event, one that speaks to the enduring impact the Fitzgerald has had on those connected to it. And yet, for all the tributes, the Fitzgerald story remains cloaked in mystery. There are those who believe the lake itself has claimed the ship and its crew, that Lake Superior's depths have a way of holding on to their dead. Native American legends refer to the lake as Gitche Gumee, the big sea water, and many say it has a soul of its own. According to these legends, the lake is a powerful, almost sentient entity that decides who it will give back and who it will keep. Could it be that the lake, in its cold depths, chose to keep the Fitzgerald as part of its collection of secrets? The Edmund Fitzgerald is more than a shipwreck. It's a haunting reminder of the unpredictability and power of nature. As much as we try to move forward, the Fitzgerald pulls us back, urging us to remember. And perhaps that's the lake's final gift to us, a story that refuses to be forgotten. What do you think? Will the mysteries of the Edmund Fitzgerald ever be solved, or will Lake Superior keep them forever? Let us know in the comments. And if you're as fascinated by untold stories and hidden depths, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more haunting tales.